and I'm going to go back to my server. So if your server is not open, like mine is open here, let's say, for example, you have saved it. Remember, when you need to leave your computer, you will save your virtual computer, okay? So if I go to my Hyper-V manager, can you see Suben's server that I've created is saved? So if I wanted to start it now, I'll click on it, and I'll click on Start. And then exactly where I left off, it will be in the same place. So I'll log into my server. And then I'm going to complete the next activity. So the next activity now is to do what? Is to set up my DHCP server. So again, I go to my server manager. From server manager, I'm going to go to add roles and features because I want to add a DHCP server. So I click on add roles and features. I go next. It's a role based. I go next. I go next again. Once I've done that, I click on DHCP. I look for DHCP. It says it wants to add some features. I say add features, and it's got a full tick in DHCP now. So I go next. I leave this as it is. Go next again, and then install. So the first screenshot they want me to take is the one where I've installed DHCP server. So what am I doing again? This is activity 2 of task 2. So once it has now created my DHCP server or installed my DHCP server, you'll see it appears here in the center of the screen. So I go on the top right-hand side here, and I'm looking for DHCP. There's my DHCP, okay? So I click on DHCP. It opens up the DHCP console. I'm just going to make this bigger so that we can see it. And I can see I've got a server that has been installed. Okay. So I'm going to right click now on that server, and I'm going to say authorize. Okay. Authorize means it needs to have permission to give out IP addresses on the network. Also, you will see next to it, it's got red dots. Those need to be green. Okay. So I right click, and then I say authorize. And then I'm going to refresh. Can you see I've got green ticks now next to it? Okay. So what's the next thing that I need to do now? I need to add a scope. So what I can do now is I can take a picture of this one or a screenshot. So I'm just going to restore. I'm going to go right. There's it there. I want a screenshot of this. I go to my snipping tool, click on new, and I can see DHCP server has been installed. So then I go back. I put a screenshot here. DHCP server installed. Then next thing I need to do now is I need to create a scope. Can you see in the center it does not have a scope? So I'm going to add a scope. How do I add a scope? I can right click on IP version 4 and then I can select new scope. It will come up with the new scope wizard and I'm going to go through the wizard. What do you want to call this scope? So I'm going to call it my name and then scope. I don't need to put in a description. Now, this is the range of IP addresses that we're going to be giving out. So I'm going to be giving out 192.168.20.10 going up to 100. And I'm going to leave the length and the subnet mask as the same. So this needs to be 100. So it's going to give out IP addresses from 192.168.20.10.12.13.14 going up to 100. I'm going to go next. It says, do you want to add any exclusions? Okay, so I'm not going to add any exclusions. The least duration is 8 days by default. I'm going to leave it as it is. Do you want to configure some DHCP options? Yes, I want to configure these options. I go next. The router. What router did they give me? Router, can you see in the bracket, they've got default gateway. So the default gateway was 192.168.20.1. So when I've typed in that, then I click on the add button and I should see 192.168.20.1 as being my default gateway. Then I go next. Then it says DNS and you'll see automatically it's already added my DNS here. So I don't need to put in another server's name. Then I go next. Wins, you leave it as it is. You go next. Do you want to activate the scope now? Yes. And then I go. So it should show me here that I've set a scope. If I click on scope, and if I click on address pool, so the first picture that I need to take here is the start and end addresses in my scope. So I'm going to take a screenshot of this. So there's my scope that has been configured. And I'm going to say DHCP scope. And then I'll write it's from 192.168. 20.10 until 192.168.20.100. There's the scope that has been set. And then the last screenshot I need to take would be scope options. When I click on scope options here, it tells me what is the router, what is the DNS server, okay? So then I'll take a screenshot of this one here. So these are scope options. Let's just see if that's the one that they want from us. DHCP is installed, scope is defined, DHCP options are set. That's your default gateway and preferred DNS server. Okay, so those are the 3 screenshots that needs to be taken. So I'm going to take a screenshot. And I'm going to write DHCP scope options. And then router and DNS server. So you write router, and then you can write default gateway. What is it set to? 192.168.20.1. And what's the other one? DNS server. DNS server. What is it set to? 192.168.20.2. And now this is question 2. So for question 2, or activity 2 from task 2, if I look at my document, there's 3 screenshots. The first one is DHCP is installed. Let me just write question 2 here so it's clear. Activity 2. Activity 2. So this is task 2, activity 2. Task 2, activity 2, I can see clearly I've got DHCPs installed, I've got a DHCP scope that has been set, and I've got DHCP scope options that have been set. That completes activity 2. So let me just close this one.